Welcome to Success Redefined with Dr. Tony Warner. I'm Dr. Tony, mom of five, psychotherapist, author, and mentor. Here, you're going to find insightful discussions spanning science, psychology, and soul as the personal and professional meet, and we explore the intersection of what really matters. So success can be redefined with connection, healing, and fulfillment in mind. Motherhood, mental health, the mental load. Let's talk about the jumble of it today because all of us can raise our hands, right? All of us that are moms, all of us that are in caregiver roles, and that know what that experience is like to carry the mental load, to that cognitive and emotional behind the scenes work that isn't so tangible for people to see, but it still requires energy from us, is something that affects all of us. And that on top of the other things that we're dealing with in life, that we're navigating in life, whether it's with our partners, whether it's as parents, whether it's just as persons, right? Our individual personhood or as professionals, it all comes together and all affects each other. I want to talk about this today. During this maternity leave that I'm currently on at the time of this recording, I'm about 4 months into my 6-month maternity leave. I've been joining more mom-oriented groups and conversations, both in the in-person space and in the online space, which I am appreciating. I've been wanting that connection. I've been knowing that I've been craving that connection in this season of my life in a different way now than I had it before. And so I've really been enjoying it and appreciating it. However, I've seen a variety of different experiences be shared in those spaces. And I want to speak to that today because it's just come up on my mind so often, especially lately. I think the added political environment that we are all in and navigating right now it can just enhance some of the stressors and the frustrations and the challenges that we're all navigating in our lives. So I have seen some really refreshing commentary from other moms in these places and in these spaces. Moms who share that they feel solid in their relationships because their partners feel like real partners, true partners, reliable partners. And so there's this space for emotional awareness. There's this emotional intelligence that they can trust is going to happen in their relationships. There's this support that's available to them. And so they really feel safe to express themselves and to express their needs. So even when those happens, they can trust that their partner is going to be there for them. And then they also have this reciprocity, right? So if their partner is struggling, then they could be there for their partner. And there's less resentment in that kind of setup of a relationship because there is this give and take. It's not 50-50 all the time, but in the grand scheme of the relationship, there is this reliable give and receive. We can both express our wants and our needs, and we can both have a general expectation that there's some support there for us. I love seeing those posts. I love seeing those comments. I love hearing those stories be shared because I find that those kinds of shares, they just, it's like I can loosen my shoulders a bit. I feel so happy for those folks that are in that situation. And I want more of that for all of us. I just think that we all want more of that, right? Like we all desire that in some capacity, whatever that looks like for us. It might look a little bit different for you or for me, but we want that. And that really gives me hope. It gives me hope for the next generation of children that are being raised in those kinds of supportive and emotionally safe environments. So I've gotten to see those refreshing shares from other moms. However, it certainly has not been all of that. I've noticed that the majority of things that moms, especially, are tending to share are very different than those refreshing posts and shares and experiences. And I think we need to make space for these kinds of shares, these kinds of conversations, these kinds of stressors and frustrations, not so that we just have a place where we just blah, 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 vent all of the negativity and then kind of focus on the negative and enhance the negative and fuel the negative more and more and more. Not in that way. But I think if we could bring some more courageous conversation and awareness to these challenges that moms, who I'm going to talk about moms specifically in this episode, that moms are facing, uh, if we could just allow some more conversation around this that's courageous and kind and compassionate, and uh, if we can do that, then I think there's more space for grace for ourselves as mothers. And I also think that there's more space for us to learn and to grow and to heal as mothers, as partners, as professionals, like just across the board. And so I have seen, and I'm sure you can relate, a lot of these spaces show a lot of trends that wind up being very damaging for all of us, for us as individuals, for us as a collective parenting, mothering group. And here's some of the ones that I've seen the most. I would love to hear from you. What are some of the damaging trends that you see or hear in the group of motherhood that you would like to shine a light on? Not to, again, not to fuel the negativity, but to help bring change into that area, to help bring healing and support into that area where it's needed the most. So here's some of the ones that I've seen. A lot of guilt. I'm sure many, if not all of us, have heard about mom guilt. And there's been a lot of sharing around mom guilt with feeling like they should be able to do more and more and more and more and more, especially for their kids. And then I see us moms normalizing the mom guilt as if living with chronic mom guilt is how we are supposed to feel. There's a difference between normalizing mom guilt as an experience that moms have and can also move through and not have to live that way, versus normalizing mom guilt as the default mode that moms should be feeling all of the time, right? Like, oh, well, you're a mom, so you're just going to feel mom guilt and it's going to be that way forever and you're just going to have to deal with it. There's different kinds of normalizing there, and normalizing the experience of mom guilt, I think, is in line with what, why I'm doing this episode in the first place, right? For us to be able to share that there is a common experience for many moms, especially in America. And by bringing light to that, we can start to make some shifts there. We can start to have some healing there. We can start to gain some support so that that can change, right? That's very different than us hunkering down and saying, oh, mom guilt is so common in all of mothers across the world or across America. And so we should point the finger at other people, or we should all kind of feel stuck in this victim mentality where we can't do anything about it and this sucks and we just are going to feel mom guilt forever and there's nothing we can do about it, right? That leaves us feeling powerless. And when we normalize it in that way, that we are powerless as mothers, that is disempowering. That doesn't serve us as a group of powerful women and mothers who can move forward, who can heal, who can learn, and who can grow, and who deserve to experience relationships with their children, with their partners, that don't constantly elicit guilt. Okay, let me move. I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to step off of that soapbox a little bit so I could keep sharing some of the trends that I've seen that are most commonly coming up in the groups and spaces that I've been interacting in. recently. And so another one is the struggle with managing household tasks. And the list of household tasks seems to be endless, right? Paying the bills, cleaning, organizing, planning the groceries, getting the groceries, putting the groceries away, making the meals, scheduling the appointments for yourself and the children, any other things that need to be done for the household, making sure that the schedules for maybe their sporting events or any other activities that they're in are situated, making sure that you have the school schedule and making that line up in a way that you're not going to forget that they have off this day, and making sure that if they're sick, you can take off, and blah, 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 like managing all the household tasks. And this leads into the mental load conversation as well, managing that mental load, and then not knowing how to share with their partner even what the mental load is, let alone the heaviness of it and the help that is needed with it, right? And then another common trend that I see that comes up is dealing with partners or dealing with exes. This, all of these trends that I'm seeing, that I'm sharing with you today, they could be a full series of episodes in and of themselves. So we can't do a deep dive into every single one of them today, but I think that it is helpful, again, to just identify them, to share them, to call them out and say, listen, let's shine a light there. And then be aware that this is an area that is commonly coming up for us moms that can be challenging. And A, yes, it's okay that you're feeling the challenge. It doesn't mean that there's something bad or wrong or broken about you. And B, no, you are not powerless in this. Come on, you are powerful. And we can delegate, we can communicate, we can exit, we can enter in ways that we need to support ourselves and our health and our relationships. And not only can we do that, but gosh darn it, like we need to do that, and we deserve that for ourselves as well as for the ripple effect that we're going to make in the lives of our children and our partners and those that we serve professionally. Because when we feel better within ourselves, we can do better for ourselves, and we can also show up in a more enhanced and healthy way for those around us. That's just the truth. I wholeheartedly believe that. I feel very strongly about that. So that is an important foundational part of why we're talking about this today in this episode. Women, I want you to hear this. Moms, I want you to hear this. You are allowed, and you can have powerful, positive experiences as a person, as a professional, as a parent, as a partner. You can. That doesn't mean that every single experience that we're going to have in all aspects of our life are always going to be positive. That's not true. It's not possible. It's not going to happen. And that's okay. Okay. But if you can lean into the truth that if you are struggling more often than not, and you are not feeling that you can tap into that joy more often than not, you can and you deserve to feel more of that. It is within your reach. It is something that you have power to influence in your life. And maybe that means stepping back from some things or stepping towards some things. Maybe that means delegating in different ways. Maybe that means taking more deep breaths. It could it can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different moms, a lot of different folks, a lot of us. It looks a bit differently how we can gradually get there and then move back into there when we're not there, over and over and over again. But I hope that you can hear it and believe it, that it's possible for you. Maybe it's baby steps at a time, and that's totally okay. Okay, back to the common list. I have I think two more that I want to identify. No, one, it's kind of to get this other one that I want to share, it could be broken down into multiple, but we'll do an overarching one. So the other trends that I see that's damaging for us moms is this stress and anxiety or anger or resentment that is happening more and more and more, or more often than we would like, because of the mental load. And so that could include all of the things that I've already mentioned and more. And it's this feeling like, you're the one that has to do it all, and you maybe can't, or you don't talked to your partner about it. Maybe you don't have a partner to talk about it with, or maybe you don't feel like your partner understands, or maybe you're scared to talk to your partner about it, or maybe you have talked to your partner about it but hasn't been well received. Right? All of these different barriers that come up with being able to share it with our partners in a helpful way around this challenge of the mental load and the emotions that get elicited in our relationship when that mental load just continues to climb larger and larger and larger, and we're not feeling like we can express the needs that we have to manage it and get the support that we need. And so you wind up trying to manage all of the mental, emotional, and cognitive aspects of what it is to lead a family, to take care of an entire family, organizing all of the things that I mentioned before and more, transportation, everything else that goes into doing X, Y, or Z for yourself and your kids and your partner and the pet and dot 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 dot, right? That list that I just mentioned, the mom guilt, the managing the household tasks, the dealing with the partners or exes and communicating with them, the stress, anxiety, anger, resentment because of the mental load, like that list is such a common list of challenges, of stressors that come up for moms, that when we continue to perpetuate them, knowingly or unknowingly, perpetuate the patterns that allow them to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going, or get worse and get worse and get worse, it is wearing us out. It is wearing us thin. Whether you're a working mom, a stay-at-home mom, a mom that is an entrepreneur and works from home, or some other variation of motherhood, these things can come up, and they do more often than we want them to. And these things can affect us, and they do more often than we want them to for many of us. And so, do we want to be okay with that? Do we want to get in a place where we feel powerless around that and then stay there? How do we want to handle it? What do we want to do about it? Are we too exhausted to feel like we can do anything about it, or super resentful, so resentful that we feel like, why should we be the ones that have to do anything about it? Because I have felt that way before too. And so if you feel that way, I hear you. I hear you. Feel that way. Like you feel that way right now. I'll let yourself feel that way right now. However, we just don't want to stay there. I saw this reel as I was thinking over all of this discussion on motherhood and mental load and managing life, and also at the same time wanting to really enjoy being a parent, wanting to really enjoy being a partner, and wanting to really enjoy our work. So anyway, I was just thinking over all of this earlier this week. I saw this reel of a mom doing a dozen self-care needs all at the same time. And then it said, the quote said, "This is me trying to get all my needs met within the 1 hour that I have after the kids go to bed." And it was meant to be funny, of course. It was meant to be very comical. She had the face covering on her face for the face peel that she needs to take care of her skin. And then she had these stretchers on her legs in order to get the exercise in. And then she had a million things in her arms in order just to, trying to multitask all of that and all of the things. And so it was meant to be funny. And I got a little giggle out of it. But also, let's look a little bit deeper into that. and that she's not the only mom that feels that way. There are so many moms that are carrying the weight of that all of the time, that feeling, and and how sad actually that leads me to feel that so many people, so many moms actually do try to do it like that reel depicted. They try to prioritize everyone else first, the household needs, the needs of the children, the needs of their partner, the needs of people at work, the needs of the pet, like the needs of everything and everyone else first. So they deprioritize themselves. Mm? And then try to find just that itty bitty 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 of time. For many, it's even less than an hour. At the end of the day, after the kids go to sleep, to squeeze it in, or some try to do it at the beginning of the day, which is more of prioritizing yourself, right? Like I'm going to prioritize myself first. And that does make a difference. I highly recommend if you can set some time for yourself aside in the morning first, that is an act of prioritizing you. That is an act of self-care. Don't do it just because someone else is doing it because I say it. Do it because you want to prioritize yourself and your needs and actually prioritize yourself and your needs during that time, whatever they may be. But so many people do it like that reel. They just deprioritize themselves and feel exhausted. And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It just makes us feel more frustrated, more stressed, more exhausted, more angry, more of how we don't want to feel. And it helps actually perpetuate these cycles of these trends that I have seen are really damaging. And I'm not even right now, because I'm on maternity leave, I'm not even working with clients, but I can tell you in the decade plus of work that I've been doing with clients, I also see this. So this is not just completely pulled from only what I've seen on social media or only what I've seen in mom groups that are local to me. This is pulled from my other years of experience in various areas of my life. So you could probably relate in some way to some of these struggles, to some of these challenges. Don't get me wrong, there are absolutely a ton of demands on our time, aren't there? There often are differences in how things impact us as women versus a male partner. I have been thinking about that a heck of a lot. Because I'm in maternity leave and I'm exclusively nursing. And right before this maternity leave, I had my fourth baby, and so I was exclusively nursing her too. So I'm the sole source of sustenance for these babies, and that means I'm waking up and I'm not getting sleep, and I'm seeing my partner sleeping, and I'm like, it is there are differences in how certain demands of life and of parenthood affect us as women as opposed to our partners. And there is a place and a space for us to recognize that, to appreciate that, to tend to that, to get support with that. It can be such a challenge, right? So all of that's true. I'm not wanting to nullify the truth of that. It absolutely can be a challenge to sort out how not to neglect ourselves, how not to put ourselves last. But this kind of relationship trend that I am seeing, this kind of stress trends that I have been seeing, which you probably have been seeing too, is not something that we as women, we as mothers can sustain any longer. We can't. We cannot see it continue because it is no longer sustainable. We are at a place in womanhood history where we are trying, right? So prior to now, we as women were trying to gain more access for ourselves, right? And it's not to say that there aren't still areas where we could continue to do that, but we were really focusing the fight, so to speak, of trying to gain more access, more choice for ourselves. And we're at this point in history right now where we have more access and more choice for ourselves now than we ever have before. And yes, there's a ways we can go with that, but we're there. And also, because we have more access and more choice, we are taking on more in all of the areas of our lives as well. So it's like we feel like we have to fight for more and also handle the more that we have fought for all at once. It is all consuming. It's too much. It is too much. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. We didn't fight for choice so that we then had to just carry the load of everything in all aspects of our life at work and at home and in the community and parenting and everything all of the time. We didn't fight for choice so that we had to carry more. That wasn't the point. But that is where we are at kind of in the history of womanhood right now. And that means that we're at a crucial point where we need to become more aware of what we are choosing to say yes to and perpetuate, and what we are choosing to say no to and start to make a shift with, which is a really huge ask because it's important. It's huge because it's important. Because it's not just going to affect us in the way that we are living today, but it's going to affect our daughters, our granddaughters. It's going to have a ripple effect on our sons as well and our grandsons. It's going to not just affect us, but the patterns we choose to perpetuate now because we have more choice are going to affect generations to come. They're going to affect generations of women in the workforce who are going to take a stand or lead from a foundation of, I get to say yes to my kids and to my professional passions, because the way has begun to be paved already from the generations before me. It's going to affect our the men, our sons, because they are going to see womanhood in a different way due to how women are presenting themselves. They're going to see what it is to be a partner or a father in a different way because of how we are presenting ourselves now to our children and to our partners or in the community or as citizens. The power of the ripple effect of the woman, of the mom, is so incredibly impactful that it is going to echo for eons. That's how important this is. That's how important it is that we be aware of the damaging trends that are so commonly happening, that we shine a light on them, not from a place of victimhood, not from a place of powerlessness, not from a place of sitting in anger or resentment, but from a place of recognizing this is how we're feeling now. And we're going to use this as a board, as a jumping place, as a catalyst to help us move forward in a healthier, more healing fashion. Because what it looks like to be a woman in our modern age is different than what it was several decades ago, and it will be different several decades from now, and we get a say in that. So we need to find a way to balance. Yes, I said balance. For those who want to roll their eyes at balance, balance doesn't mean 50-50. Throw out that cookie cutter definition of balance. We are redefining it here, right? We need to find a way to balance, find homeostasis, equilibrium, which is at the core of how nature works in the first place. It has a sense of homeostasis, a sense of equilibrium that allows it to continue on even as things ebb and flow. We need to find a way to create, to sustain, to come back to that balance when we're off balance. We need to find a way to do that within and for ourselves, because it's going to have such an impact in our lives, our relationships. We need to find a way to balance our lives, our relationships, and our health differently. And I think we're seeing some of that, some of the women that are doing that in some areas of their lives, with just some of those posts and shares and experiences that I had mentioned at the beginning of this episode, the refreshing ones. women that are feeling like they are engaged in an emotionally supportive and safe and reciprocal partnership. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing. How about we come together as a womanhood and start perpetuating patterns that help us do more of that? Start perpetuating patterns that help us know we are worthy of that. Now, there's a lot of things that we would need to do in order to help that happen because there's trauma involved. There's exposure to a variety of different relationships that each of us have, had experiences with throughout our lives, throughout our childhood. There's so many things that go into that. But if we as individuals and as a collective womanhood can say, I am choosing, I'm wanting to prioritize my health, myself, my relationships, not in a selfish way that's like, oh, I don't care about anyone else, but in a selfish way that's like, oh, I care about myself. Because when I care about myself, I'm able to show up more powerfully and more passionately in all of the areas of my life that I care about because of that. Because of that. You can feel my passion coming through, right? I shared earlier, as of this recording, I am 4 months into my 6 months of maternity leave, which means I've got 2 months left. And that's got me thinking about all kinds of things. Like, I'm really excited to go back to work. I love my work. I love being a therapist. I love educating others in a way that's inspiring and just connecting in such a meaningful way. I love my work. But I also feel so, so grateful for this time home with my kids, the babies especially. And so it feels like it's going kind of fast. I can't believe I'm 4 months into 6 month maternity leave. This is the longest maternity leave that I've ever taken. It's also the last maternity leave that I will ever take. And I feel so grateful for it. So I don't want it to rush away, even though I'm really looking forward to going back to work because I love my work so much. You ever feel that pull? It's like, I love my work and I want to be there and present for it and doing it. And I really love being mom and I want to be there and present for it. And the way that we navigate balancing those two things is just going to look different for each of us, but also just in our different seasons of lives. It's going to look different for us as an individual. It looks different for me now than it did even just last year when I had my fourth baby. And it looked different for me last year when I had my fourth baby than it did when I had my third baby 5, 6 years before that, and so on and so forth. Things are different now, and I cannot deny that. I can't get as much done in the same period of time as I could before. And that's been something that I've been practicing accepting for this current season of my life because I am sleep deprived. I have more children now than I ever have before. I have two under two in addition to my older three. I have now been nursing for a couple years and will be nursing for the foreseeable future. And that takes energy and time. And so knowing things are different for me now and different for my family now, it does affect the amount of time and energy that I have to get things done. I want to honor that. Let's honor that that happens for us in our lives, especially as women, because when we have children, it doesn't just affect our schedules or our sleep. It affects our bodies. It affects our emotions. It affects our relationship with ourself, with our partner. It affects so much. We need to honor that happens. I think we need to keep this in perspective. We need to keep this in context as well as we consider within ourselves what it looks like for us to prioritize a healthier balance of ourselves in our lives right now because of the importance of this I'm going to call it inner work, of this inner work that we need to do with ourselves, but also this interpersonal work that we need to do within our relationships if we really want to make some progress in this area moving forward. As I've been kind of contemplating with myself, knowing things are different now, and that it affects the amount of time and energy that I have to get things done, I've been pulling myself back again and again and again. And I do this quite often when there's a large transition happening in my life. But I've been pulling myself back again and again, back to the basics, back to the fundamentals of what I know helps me, helps humans manage life, manage parenting, manage mental health, manage work and marriage, manage the multifaceted aspects of what it is to be a person in the society and to be a human in this world. I've been bringing myself back to those fundamentals, back to those basics. And one particular tool that I'm focusing on right now that supports those fundamentals, that supports those basics, which I'm not going to go into in this episode because we don't have time. Maybe I'll go into it a different episode, but I will go into the one major tool that I'm currently focusing on. And that tool is what I call intentional scheduling, but I'm not talking about intentional individual scheduling for just me, myself, which I do. And when I don't do it, I feel a huge difference. And I have not been doing that as much. But I'm talking about intentional family scheduling. So, intentional family scheduling is being aware of what I want to happen and what needs to happen for my family, in particular, me and the children, because I'm home right now, right? So I'm home during maternity leave. And so I am with my children a lot every day. And if it's just open chaos time all of the time, or if we're just running around and running amok from errand to errand all the time, things do not go that smoothly. They don't. They don't. Now, it's one thing if that happens here and there, but if that's just the day in and day out, there's not structure for the kids to be able to rely upon for a sense of what's going to come next. And so it feels much more chaotic. There's also not that structure in place for me. And so the constant bickering, the constant mom, the constant asking me questions. What can we do? Can we go on the screen? A family schedule, an intentional family schedule sets blocks of time. This isn't super rigid, but it's also not super open. Okay, so that finding the balance between the rigidity of it and the openness of it is on you because that looks different for all of us. But our schedule is very much so supportive of the needs and wants that we have for me and the kids right now, and it is working beautifully. It's working so beautifully. I'm telling you, we noticed the difference. I just re-implemented this intentional family scheduling about a week or so ago, and we could feel the difference within the first 2 days. Boom, could feel the difference. Whew. In fact, my mom came over to watch the kids one day so I could get some things done, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, they're doing so well today. They're not arguing nearly at all compared to how much they were arguing with each other, my two boys especially last week." I was like, "I'm telling you, doing this schedule." And I also couple it with a choice chart for my middle guys. I don't do a choice chart for my teenager. She's too old for that. And obviously I can't do a choice chart for the 1-year-old or the infant because they have no awareness of that. But I do a choice chart for my 11-year-old and my 6-year-old. Coupling that choice chart, which if you want me to talk more about a choice chart, leave a message down below in the comments and let me know because I'll be happy to talk more about that in a different episode. But coupling a choice chart with my intentional family schedule is so impactful because it gives them something to focus on. It gives them a structure for them to know during this next 30 minutes or during this next hour, this is what I'm going to focus on. This is what is expected. This is what I can look forward to. I don't have to keep asking mom if I could do this thing that I know she's going to say no to, but I'm hoping if I just keep asking her that I could do it, then she's finally going to say I could do it because what else are we going to do anyway? Blah, blah, blah. It eliminates so much of that. And it's beautiful. I will say the last 2 years, I let the family schedule fall to my wayside because I had gotten pregnant with my fourth. I was packing up and we were buying a new house and cleaning up, fixing up and selling the old house, moving our stuff out of storage units and installing new floors in the new house. We took our family for their very first trip to Disney, and I was 7 months pregnant at the time. So I was trying to navigate all of that with not getting very much sleep because I didn't sleep well during these past two pregnancies. And my partner and I were going on our first couples trip away by ourselves. We were preparing for the new baby. We were getting the kids situated for a new place and so on and so forth. And then I also had I needed to finish and release and market my new book during that time too. So it was a very full year, to say the least. I didn't even name all of the stuff, but it was a very full year. And I let the family schedule fall to the wayside. Do I need to beat myself up for that? No. What benefit is that going to be? But I used to do family schedules and choice charts prior to that, and I'd always seen them be effective because I also did behavioral work with children and families during my professional career, and I helped dozens and dozens and dozens of families put and implement choice charts that were custom to them, and I saw it work for them. And so it was something that I know is an evidence-based matter of working with families and working with children. So I know that it works because of my experience and because of the support I've offered others, and yet I still let it fall to the wayside. So I could be like, oh, well, I know better. How could I let this happen? No, that's not going to be helpful to me. Did I have moments when I felt that way? Sure, of course I did. But do I just overall feel that way and beat up myself? No, I mean, ladies, if we're going to move forward in a way that feels empowering, that feels like it's progress, then we cannot constantly beat up on ourselves, and we cannot constantly beat up on one another. We can't do that. There's no place for that. Let's be done with that. Okay? Let's be done with that. Do we need to call ourselves out and hold ourselves accountable? Yes, but you don't get to hold someone else accountable if you're not holding yourself accountable. Sorry. There's no place for that anymore. I'm not going to get on my soapbox about that because that's going to take us way off and we're already at time today. But let's just, I hope you just pull that in, tuck it in where you need to tuck it in, and contemplate on that in whatever way best serves you. But I'm so glad you all joined me today. I would love to hear your thoughts and reflections from our conversation, your takeaways, because this is an important conversation for us to have. Let's continue to have conversations around this. Women, yes, the mental load is a thing. Yes, there are things that are different that affect us as women, as moms. And yes, there is space for us to grant grace to ourselves and each other so that we can move forward, so we can make progress, so that we can heal and learn and grow in ways that are helpful to us, that allow us to care for ourselves, to prioritize ourselves, because the impact, the ripple effect of that is beyond comprehension. Thanks for joining me today, y'all. I hope that you feel successful in simply being yourself today, tomorrow, and this whole week until we talk again. Until next time, bye. Links related to this episode can be found in the show notes section. Want to submit questions about success, satisfaction, healing, and relationships, health, or work? You can do that free and anonymous at drtonywarner.com, where you'll find other resources there as well. Did you benefit from this episode? You can subscribe, like, and share with another to pass it on, because anyone can listen on the go with this podcast audio available on all major podcasting platforms.